Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
15 goals scored and just one conceded. Pretty easy this pre-season lark, isn't it? United get their summer schedule underway with local friendlies. We look back on those games, a new arrival, and discuss how United's squad rebuild is come along in this latest episode. Being a little bit facetious there with the pre-season lark being easier. I don't think it's fair to say when you look at
I don't think the players would agree with it.
No, certainly not, but it's it's that opening couple of fixtures is always quite a few goals flying about usually, isn't there? So there you go, and you'll be talking about those, and we'll have a little report from Mike. Mike, unfortunately, not able to join us on this week's episode, but he's given us a report. He was at Kendal last night, so he'll be able to tell us how that got along. You were at Penrith the other night as well.
Yes.
It's interesting this pre-season because I think all three of us are missing quite a few of it, aren't we? I mean, I'm hoping to make it to the Morecambe game in a couple of weeks. I mean, I've got...
Yeah, me too. I think I should make that one.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would get to the Workington game, but I've got something on this Saturday, so not much I can do about that, is there? Well, those who don't realise...
You could, but there'd be a very angry woman in white waiting somewhere for
Indeed. For those who don't realise, I'm getting married on Saturday, so this is the last episode we're doing before that. There'll be a 2-week break then, and then we'll be back for one just before the Morecambe game. I think we're looking at maybe doing one roundabout then, possibly, and then we'll have our pre-season preview episode. We've got something very special lined up for that, hopefully. We're just trying to get a few ducks lined, aren't we? So we can get something on that for that. And then, obviously, the week after that, we'll start with the first proper episode of the season ahead of the Crawley game. So, really exciting times, isn't it? I think it's fair to say. Well, before we get on, obviously, just to remind everyone, the sponsor of the show this season is the Carlisle United Supporters Club at London branch. Open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore, and of course, every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, sports games and fundraising for the club. They will providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section of the season 2. If you want to find out more about London Branch, go to the website carlisle.londonbranch.org. Right, well, unfortunately, it's happened a few times this summer, isn't it, Dan? But we've got a bit of sad news to start on the show today. It's the passing of a former Blues manager, actually former Workington player, actually, we were playing Workington this weekend in a friendly. Clive Middlemass, sadly, has passed away, hasn't he?
Yeah, you say former Workington. He played most of all his professional games were for Workington. And he retired playing. He'd gone to see his parents in Sheffield while he was at Workington because Ipswich Town were looking at him, which was obviously, Ipswich, a much bigger club, no disrespect, than Workington in the 70s. And his car was hit by a lorry on the way home, and he had a year out. And he did go back at Workington, but, when he realised he just couldn't do it anymore, and he sadly had to retire from playing. So, yeah. But no, he was... Carlisle manager from 87 to 91. He came in after Harry Gregg.
Yeah.
He was the first sort of proper manager I associated with, because
the thing, I don't think our younger fans will realise, sorry Dan, but what a mess the club was in back then when he took over, wasn't it?
Well, my first season was 85-86, and we got relegated from what is now the Championship. The following season, 86-87, we got relegated from what's now League One. And then 87-88, we finished 23rd out of 24 in the league we're in now. So it was a shocking first 3 years for me.
Well, we only saved by Newport being an absolute mess that season.
There was all that sort of stuff going on, and it's just, we've had some bad times since, but that was genuinely rock bottom stuff, And
the thing is, football back then as well wasn't always the best place to be at, was it really? Because there was very low crowds. It was it could be quite a miserable, the state of grounds as well, especially was appalling, wasn't it? So it's not great. But he came in and he really turned it around, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I mean, we had a cracking season where we just missed out. We actually went top. We beat Exeter at home on a Tuesday night in February, and the crowd was giving us, I think it was 8,400 approximately. It looked absolutely. The videos on YouTube, the Warwick Road end and the Scratching Pen, it had rained a lot in the run up to it, which is why they were busier, but they were absolutely rammed. We won 1-0 with a Tony Shepherd goal, and we went top of the league actually, and we faded away at the end, and we got beat by Maidstone in the classic game 5-2 on the last day of the season to miss the playoffs, and that we sort of petered out again after that. But we did have some good times under Middlemass. We played Liverpool at home in the famous cup game in January '89. Which Liverpool at home was the stuff of dreams back then. They were the best team in the country.
That was the best team in the world, weren't they? You could argue.
That was the equivalent of Man United away back then. And we did have some good players under him. The likes of Nigel Saddington, Paul Fitzpatrick, Paul Proudlock,
Keith
Walwyn.
Yeah.
These were good players. And
even John Halpin towards the end of his career still doing bit as well.
Is that Alexa speaking?
Nigel practiced as a solicitor in London until 1992.
Alexa, stop.
Oh, leaving that in.
I don't know what happened there.
Oh, bizarre, wasn't it? I could hear it talking as well. We're leaving that one in for the listeners there. But yeah, as I said, John Halpin, even towards the end of his career, he was still a big player then as well. And
yeah.
And I think a lot of people talked about the fact that a couple of things. One, that losing Dave McKellar was a massive blow by all accounts. But that's where things really started to go wrong when they brought in Kevin Rose, who's famously known as the Flying Pig.
You've said his name.
I know. I do apologise. But the other thing was that he had a brilliant 12 months, but unfortunately those 12 months were over 2 seasons, weren't they? Instead of one, and that's really where the problem was.
Yeah,
so it's difficult. But I mean, still a really well loved and well respected person, wasn't he, in football? And he's someone who still clearly cared about the club a lot. I mean, Andrew Jenkins had been saying he used to speak to him regularly on the phone. He was not bitter about the fact that he was sacked.
He didn't really do much more management after us.
Interim spell
he was Burnley assistant to Jimmy Mullen in the 90s. And then he moved to chief scout when Waddle was there. And then he joined Preston, and he was scout at Preston for a long time.
For David Moyes, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then I think he ended up working for Everton under Moyes as well.
Yeah,
from memory.
Yeah,
but no, he was often up at Carlisle watching, for Preston and Everton, and I think he's one of those ex-managers that's sort of fondly remembered. Certainly, people of my sort of generation, it's after the dross of the mid-'80s, he was the first sort of good manager.
It's weird, isn't it? Because a lot of managers who have those spells where they don't really actually win or achieve anything aren't always that fondly remembered, but he definitely is someone who people look back on and say, you know what, especially when you look at the circumstance he was in, he did a really good job to put a good squad together, and it's one of those things, it just peters out sometimes, doesn't it? If you lose one key player, the whole thing could come crashing down, and that happens at our level. So yeah, really sad news about Clive, and there's going to be a little bit of a tribute, I think, at the Workington friendly this weekend, and I hope that United do something for the opening home fixture as well. I know they could do something at the Bolton game pre-season, but for me, you've got to do it when it's going to be a bigger crowd there. Really, you've got to have something there, haven't you? Really, to remember him definitely. And Craig Farrell and Frank Clark as well. Obviously, it'll be the first game since all three of them passed away, sadly. So yeah, our thoughts and everything with Clive's family at this time. Okay, let's move on to a bit of news then, Dan. Transfers. One in, one out since the last episode, isn't there? So we'll just start with one normal day of Barclays, as the meme goes. So Paul Simpson's squad rebuild continues, and another new face has arrived at Brunton Park this week. Defender Ben Barclay has joined the Blues on a season-long loan from Stockport County with a view to a permanent move. He's from Manchester. He started his career in Manchester City's youth setup. I don't think he ever got to under 18 level. He moved to Brighton Hove Albion. Was there for quite a while, never really established himself. He had a loan spell at Notts County, Then he went to Accrington, did really well there, but then turned down a new deal with them to sign with big money Stockport, basically. Didn't really work out for him there, I think it's fair to say, so far at least anyway.
Yeah.
He had a loan spell at Yeovil last season where, by all accounts, he did very well. And now he's ended up with the Blues for the next 12 months, obviously. And there's a view that potentially that could be turning something permanent. I suspect if he does really well in the first half of the season, he'll probably be made permanent in January rather than wait until the end of the season. Initial thoughts on this one, because there's been a bit of sort of a few people saying, sign another player on loan from another League Two club. But it's not as simple as looking at it like that, is it? There's a bit more context you need to take into it.
Yeah. I mean, when people initially saw loan and Stockport, they were like, But like you say, he's obviously on good money at Stockport.
Yeah.
And this, by getting him for the season, it's almost try before you buy.
Yeah.
And, I don't know any figures, I'm just putting it out here. Say he's on $2,000 a week at Stockport. Yeah. We've maybe said, well, we'll give you 1,200 of that.
Yeah.
And if there's a deal at the end of the season, there's a deal,
Yeah, and Stockport might say, right, well, we'll pay 500 quid of his wage for the next season, and you can sign him permanently. That's what happened on Michael Bridges, wasn't it? Bristol continued to pay some of his wage when he signed for us. It just gets him off the books for them.
And it's something that goes on a hell of a lot more than folk realise as well. Not so much at our level, but certainly up the leagues. Yeah.
It's definitely happened with us before with quite a few sides. I mean, Lubomir Michelik's one of the big ones. He was on like a 5-figure a week wage at least, from what I can gather. We were not paying a 5-figure a week wage to him, definitely.
No.
They were paying most of it. So there you go. I mean, yeah, I think it's quite a smart move. If someone we've been watching before, he did well at Accrington at League One level. He's just been unlucky at Stockport. I mean, what people need to realise is Stockport. All this talk of clubs that have come up before, like, you saw offensive signed players and, you thought, they're going to storm it. Stockport are going to be up there. I think when it comes to our pre-season predictions, I think no one will be surprised to know who all of us are probably going to put for top spot. I mean, no guarantee. We might all have slightly different opinions, but they're going to be top 3, aren't they, really? It
would be a major surprise if they're not in and around, because when you look at the squad, it's getting silly. I mean, they signed Callum Camp, didn't they? Callum
Camp's they signed in. One of the reasons why Barclay's been allowed to go, they signed Fraser Horsfall, who we may all, from Northampton, we may all remember for that stupid handball against us in the game back in March, I think it was. So, basically they're having a real good go at it. They've already got plenty of quality there. I mean, their midfield next season, Camps and Sarcevic, I think most League Two clubs would bite the hands off, to take that. And I think the difference between them and like a Salford is they're going to have crowds of 7,000 or 8,000 most weeks.
Yeah.
Really getting behind them. Salford never had a big crowd.
If they start the season well, they'll be into 5 figures.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So
I don't even know if it holds that, to be honest.
I think it's about 10 or 12,000 maybe. It's smaller than Brunton Park, but it's a fairly big ground. It's a big stand behind the goal. So
10,800.
There you go. There you go. So they'll be getting close to filling it. They were doing it quite a lot last season in the National League, and Salford never ever got anywhere near that, even when they were flying in the National League. So that does make a difference, having that crowd behind you. So an interesting signing, certainly. Someone with a fairly decent pedigree. He's gone through the under-23 setups in a Premier League club, but then come and played he's got a good 40, 50 games under his belt or something like that now at League and National League level. So, I think it's a decent signing. I'm just double checking it.
And I think the fact that he's taken squad number 26 and 6 is still available tells you that he's not the chief defensive target.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it. He's got about 75 first team appearances under his belt. And I know he's 25, so he's a bit older, but he's been in an under 23 setup for a while. So he's come out of that now, and these last 3 years, he's got those appearances under his belt. So I think it's a decent enough signing to add a bit of depth into the squad. It's someone different. He's, happy enough with that. Right, well, that's covered Barclay's arrival. Let's talk about a departure then. No shock at all, really, was there? Tristan Abrahams has left the club. He's joined National League side Eastleigh on a permanent deal. It's to be expected, wasn't it, Dan? I think, to be honest, when he came back a bit later. We knew that was going to happen because he'd finished a lot later with Grimsby, but the fact that his squad number was gone
Yeah,
was
that
a
was
pretty
a
big
biggest
giveaway.
indicator. And, I think it'll have had, Paul Simpson did say everyone has a chance, but I think he'll have been looking himself.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a miss, is it?
Not really, no. He's one of those players and he's a striker, but he just cannot score goals. And his link plays, he's not like an outstanding target man link player, is he? He's not a player who...
No.
He seems to do well coming off the bench late on in games. He seems to have done that quite well for Grimsby, really effective. I think if he'd gone back to Grimsby, he probably would have been in a similar situation to what he was with us last season.
I think he's, with no disrespect to Eastleigh, I think he's probably at his true level.
Yeah, I think if he can do well there, he can work his way back up. I think that's probably, I'd say what it is. It's a smart move by him, rather than just making a sideways step somewhere and just being in the same, maybe score a couple of goals early on, then have a go, 20-game stretch without scoring like he did with us.
He should be starting there, shouldn't he?
He'll be starting. Yeah, he might not find chances as easy to come by, but he back himself to do well. So good luck to that. I mean, I've heard a few people saying he's one of our worst players ever. He's nowhere near that level. He's done okay, but he was not pulling up trees. That's the key thing, wasn't it? Speaking of not pulling up trees, all the trialists have gone bar one. They didn't last very long. We were all trying to work out where they were, and yeah, there they go. They're out the door for the Penrith game.
I think as well, he's not really a trialist, is he? He is.
Talking
but
about
he
Jamie
isn't.
Devitt, aren't we, basically?
Yeah.
So I mean, let's talk about the other three. 4, 5, how many trialists there was. I mean, one of them was gone before the Penrith game. We think that was James Taylor from Crystal Palace. He did not look in the best of shape, I think it's fair to say. So not a massive surprise to see him go. The other lads played at Penrith. We'll talk about the Penrith game in a minute, Dan, in more detail. But I mean, were they particularly impressive? I know the goalkeeper played the second half. None of them really stood out.
It's hard to say because, it was a first friendly. It's a Friday night at Penrith. We obviously took control of the game in the second half. They just didn't look anything. There was certainly nothing better than what we've got from what I saw. So, I think with trialists, there's a bit of false expectation, isn't there?
Yeah.
You're not going to get a Zoko every time.
Yeah, that's
the once every 5 or 10 years, those types.
If you get a Zoko, you know straight away, you're like, wow, this lad's a little bit special. He could do something. Yeah. And sometimes there is a danger of getting overexcited and thinking a player is really good. Alessio Bunyo is an example of that. We all thought, I actually, to be fair, I always say this, I was never 100% sure on him. I think both me and you agreed that Jonathan Meads, who was also on trial at the same time as a fullback, looked a better player.
Yeah.
But everyone got very excited about Bunyo because he was fairly good going forward.
And he was Italian.
Yeah, and he was Italian, so it was another one to tick off on the countries list, wasn't it, for us? But yeah, no massive surprise. I mean, it's left us obviously in a situation where we still only got one technically experienced goalkeeper, if you want to call it that. Got two young lads obviously backing him up at the moment. It sounds like Simo's going to go down that route for now. And obviously,
I wouldn't have a problem with it because Simons and Breeze, I think Breeze just shared Simons. That's the impression I'm getting. But if Hawley did get an injury, we could still loan a keeper in because Simons and Breeze have so little experience.
I do wonder if it might be one where we send Simons out on loan maybe for the first half of the season. I think I'd rather see that, really, rather than him being sat in the stands. There's no point doing that for another season.
And give Breeze the games we don't talk about.
Yes, we do exactly that. The training games, let's call them that. We're not even going to talk about those fixtures. So there you go. That's the trialists there. They're all gone. No major shocks there. Fixture changes.
We think one of them actually disappeared before Penrith.
Yeah, we said before that was the James Taylor, wasn't it? I was saying just then.
No, there was two. There was,
right, okay.
Was it Josh Shot-Eye everyone thought it was?
Yeah, Short-Eyed, something like that.
Yeah, he just seemed to disappear. He didn't even make Penrith. So.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Clearly didn't do enough. Right, before we get on to talking about the friendlies, let's talk about fixture changes. A couple of quick changes to the fixture list already. No massive shock about this one. There is a down. The Barrow game has once again been brought forward to a 1 o'clock kickoff. Now, this isn't just as a police thing for, wanting to control the crowds and stuff like that.
Well, I think we touched on this, didn't we? Yeah. England, if they win their group in the World Cup, will be in quarter-final action at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
So if the game's finished by 3, the Barovian hordes can be gone by 4 and back to Barrow in time for the match.
Exactly.
And it'll allow the police time to have an hour off before the match, between the two matches, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the carnage. But yes, and I'll give them some credit. They've got it sorted early this time.
They've got it sorted, and I think
the lesson's been learned.
the Carlisle liaison officer was at the CUSG meeting,
Yes.
and he did comment that, lessons are get learned every season, and a few people had already said, you left Barrow a bit late last time for travel, and it looks like it's been on the ball this time. So credit to everyone involved.
Yeah, definitely. The other fixture's been moved is another game in December. This one's the one between Boxing Day and New Year. It's the game against Crewe, which I think is on the 29th of December.
Thursday the
29th, yes. That is now a 7 o'clock kickoff instead of a 7:45 kickoff. Frustratingly though, Dan, isn't it, that you still can't do it by train?
Can't do the train still, no.
Yeah.
It's the last direct train is, I think it's 20:44, so you'd have to leave at past and miss the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's annoying as well, because the thing is, if it was at 9 o'clock dead on, you'd be fine, because it's literally around the corner. You literally just basically run out of the station and get on the train.
Yeah, and the Lords do it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's so easy to do.
Exactly. So there you go. So that's in terms of fixture changes. Now, just one more thing before we go to talk about the friendlies. We've had a few people asking, are we going to talk about the kiosk AGM and that kind of thing? Now, we're not going to. The explanation for that briefly is the fact that we're now into the election period of that, and obviously people involved with Unit 40 or potentially are standing for that election. We haven't really had much clarity in terms of what the election rules are, which is a little bit frustrating, but there you go. So we've basically taken the decision we're not going to talk about it. We'll talk about it afterwards, obviously. We'll discuss what happens then. But at the moment, we're not going to talk about it until we get a bit of clarity in terms of what we actually can do. That's where we are. So if you want to go on Twitter and find out about it and kiosk and that kind of thing, knock yourselves out. But we're not going to talk about it for that reason. So there you go. Right.
No comment.
Exactly. Let's move on to the friendlies then, Dan. In fact, before you talk about the Penrith friendly, because we'll sort of talk about the two of them together. Mike was at the Kendal game, and he's done us a little review of the game. He sent us the audio, so here's what Mike had to say about the 9-0 win over Kendal.
It's hard to really say a lot about the game because no disrespect to Kendal, but the gulf in class was phenomenal. But I think often in games like that, the youth lads and first-year pros stand out as youth lads and first-year pros. But Bilardo and Jack Ellis, for me, didn't look like a youth lad and a first-year pro. They just looked like any other member of the first-team squad, which was really good to see. Max Kilsby, we didn't get to see much of his defending, but he seemed assured in bringing the ball out of defence. And Devitt, for me, I think I've said before, even if we could only maybe get 25 games out of him next season, I'd give him a deal, because what he brings to the team, nobody else currently at the club does. And I think you'd struggle to get that from somebody who isn't currently at the club. I think he's a great player, and his experience is much needed.
Right, again, that's Mike's very brief review of the Kendal game. Before we talk about Devitt, we'll obviously discuss him a little bit in a second. Let's talk about the Penrith game first up, and then we'll take a little break and then come back for the talk about the Kendal game. Dan, it's hard to judge these games, isn't it? Because Penrith are they're not the lowest level of the pyramid, they're the second bottom league.
Both teams are at the same level.
Yes, they are now. Actually, you're right.
5.
Yeah, different things, because they're Penrith go in the North East.
Northern League Division 1, which is the North East League, and Kendal are North West Counties Premier Division. Yeah, first time they've been at the level for a while, though, isn't it? The first time they've dropped down. Penrith game. Yeah, we played basically two teams, as we did last night, pretty much as well. Our first half, we had Hawley in goal. We had a trialist on right, which was assumed to be, is it Richard Narty? Was it?
No, I don't. He didn't play as a trialist, did he? I thought maybe he did. Or maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure, but I thought he came afterwards. Maybe you're right. I don't know. You were there. So
Yeah, I'm sure it was that Narty
okay,
fella.
well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Morgan Feeney, Max Kilsby, Lewis Bell, Callum Guy, YTS player Kai Nugent got a start. Jack Armour, another trialist, which was believed to be, is it Cameron Thompson from Barnsley? Did we say it was?
Possibly, yeah. There was a couple of ex-Barnsley lads, wasn't there?
And then Ryan Edmondson and Amari Patrick, and Penrith, given the credit, actually played quite well first half. They sort of blocked us a little bit, and they had a bit of the ball, and they were doing all right. But we took the lead late on in the first half, and it was lovely. Patrick inch perfect to Edmondson, took a touch and another, and put it in the bottom corner. It was a lovely move. This, and
Yeah.
if we see this repeated through the season, we're in for the treat. To be honest, that was half time. 1-0 up. We came out with an entirely new team for the second half. We had the trialist goalkeeper, believed to be Sinadu from Barnsley, Ellis, Whelan, Mellish, Carr, Gibson, Moxon, Dickinson, Shaw Silver, Ballardo and Dennis. Ballardo and Carr being the youth team stepping up for it. Penrith actually equalised first in the second half, which was probably a just reward because, like I said, they put a bit of effort in. But a couple of minutes later,
Adam Murray-Jones, that scored the goal, was it? Because he's been about for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, he is Penrith sort of, But Jordan Gibson, free kick, top corner, bang, what a goal.
It's a weird free kick, I've watched it back, and it goes really high. Normally those sort of ones, they sort of, once they get to the optimal height, they stay at that height, don't they, and go to the top corner. This really loops up and high, so for a keeper, it's a tough one because you think it's going over, don't you? It's a strange free kick.
Yeah, but what a bat it was. And we scored quite quickly again. Nick Ballardo with a bit of a thunderbolt, which rippled the net. And then we pushed on, and Christian Dennis got a brace, 68 and 72nd minute, I think it was. And, one of them was a lovely pass from Owen Moxon.
Brilliant
It's
goal,
it's worth looking on the CFC Twitter if you haven't seen it. It's Moxon's pass is delightful. Again, if Owen Moxon starts doing these sort of passes through the season, we're in for the treat again. Yeah. But no, 5-1, professional job, good run out. They'll have had a bit of lactic in their legs because they were trained hard in the morning. I'll just say it was lovely to see the crowd. It was over 1,000.
Yeah.
Which, and it makes you wonder what it would have been if it had been on the Saturday,
Yeah, it's one of those ones that on a Saturday, I can't remember if
I reckon it would have been 1,500, 2,000. I really do.
I might have tried to get up if it was a Saturday.
Yeah.
It would have been easier, but
I know one or two. With it being 7 o'clock, I know one or two who couldn't quite make it.
Yeah, but it's good because we know a couple of people involved at Penrith, don't we? And stuff, and it means a lot to clubs like that, doesn't it? It helps them for the season so much, doesn't it? So it's
the money they make off this game, it pays for quite a lot of stuff for them, and it's one we always look forward to. Obviously, we play a few youth team and reserve games at Penrith during the season, so we have a good relationship against Darren Edmondson's men as it is now.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? He's a bit of a drop down in terms of level of coaching before, but he might be the kind of person who can help sort of turn them round because they've had a tough few years, haven't they?
He's actually also involved with there's a sporting campus on the old Newton Rig.
You're right, yeah. So he might
Parkview has been whispered again.
They might
which he was at, so there might be a bit of a link up. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah,
but no, it was a nice evening. I mean, I actually left with about 15 minutes to go because I had the lad with us, and he was shattered after being at school and that. But no, a nice little run out.
Yeah, all good to see. All good to see. Right, we're going to take a quick break. We're doing this deliberately because we want to play you a new little bit for the halftime break jingle. And we'll be back then, Charlie, to talk about the Kendal game, a few transfer rumours. We'll talk in terms of sort of a few League Two transfers that have gone through recently, and then we'll obviously have the X-Files section. So we'll be back in just a second.
Hi, it's Morgan Feeney, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
There you go, big Morgan. Big Morgan, the most brutal sounding man you'll ever hear in your life. He's proper scouse. Let's say it, put it that way. So we're back for the second half of the show. Just a reminder, obviously, as usual, you can find us on social media at Brunton Bugle on both Twitter and Instagram. They've been very quiet of late, but my intention is once I'm back from my honeymoon, we're going to start ramping up the stuff we put in there, basically. We're also on Facebook. Just search for the Brunton Bugle and click like. If you want to drop us an email, you can do bruntonbugle@gmail.com. And obviously if you haven't already, subscribed to the podcast on all good podcast apps, Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. And if you can review us on any of those apps, please do as well. 5-star reviews always welcomed. So we've got some exciting stuff coming up. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show as well.
And here, no falsified listening figures around here.
Oh no, we're honest with them. They're not huge figures. They're not like wow, you blow your mind into that. We're very happy with the amount of listeners we've got. We've got a fair good chunk of you out there are tuning in. And if you know any other Carlisle United fans, please tell them about the show and tell them to give us a listen. And if they want to give us any feedback, we're always welcome. If you think we're shy, just tell us. We will make changes. We'll try and make it better. Right, let's talk about the Kendal game then, Dan. Obviously, neither of us were there. Have you watched the goals that they've put on YouTube yet?
I've watched some of them.
Yes. Well, let's talk about it anyway.
I've had a busy morning. I went and got 2 tyres on the front of my car. So
what a day, eh?
Rock and roll, eh?
Yeah. Living the high life. Well, let's look at this. I'm looking at the teams here, basically, that are playing that game. So, obviously, the first half, they started with Holy in goal. I'm guessing it was a back three of... I'm trying to work it out who's the defender would be. Barkley, I'm guessing, would be the right side of the back three. Morgan Feeney and John Mellish. Your wing backs, I'm guessing Dickinson would be one. Possibly, maybe Gibson as the other. It's quite hard to tell, actually. But then in midfield, you've got Hilton, Ryan Carr, and who else would be in there? Because try hard to work this out. Moxon, the other one as well, sorry. And up front, Show Silver and Dennis. And obviously went into the half-time break. Was it 4-0 up, I think it was, in the end? Or was it 5-0? I can't remember, to be honest. I'm trying to get the
5-0.
thing up. 5-0, sorry, I do apologise. I'm trying to get the club report up. It's not loading for me. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones. Normally, Kendal, it's about 4 or 5-0, isn't it? But the standard there has probably dropped in recent seasons. They've had quite a few issues off the pitch, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, looking for it, obviously the goals in the first half. Show Silver opened up the scoring, picking up a rebound from a corner. I think it was maybe Dennis got on the end of a cross. Then your second goal was Dennis actually got the second goal himself. His first goal, that's 3 goals in 2 pre-season games, going really well for him. Show Silver, a couple as well now, so he scored. Basically, it was a quick firing, wasn't it? Your first goal was 6, and then you scored goals on 22, 26, 28, and 32. Basically, we pulverised them over a 10-minute period, didn't we? So, Hilton got his first goals as well. 2 smart finishes by looks of things. Show Silver slid in for his second as well. That was 5 at half time. Second half, Bilardo got on the score sheet again, didn't he? So he's having a pretty decent pre-season. Interesting to see how he develops.
I think he was one that we highlighted after watching a couple of the youth team games last season, wasn't he?
This is the thing, isn't it, with a young lad like that? I think he scored something like, did I say something like 30-odd goals last season? Maybe 20, I can't remember, 20 or 30 goals last season. Any striker that does that in the first year as a youth player is always likely to get a professional contract if they keep it up, basically. So I think it's a matter of time before he gets a pro deal, probably, if he keeps it up. And then a nice goal flurry from Jamie Devitt. He played the second half, of course. So yeah, second half team was not too dissimilar. There was a few changes, wasn't there? So Holy stayed in net, but Jack Armour comes in to play left wing back. Guy Edmondson, Whelan, Devitt, Ellis, Bell, Kilsby and Bilardo all came in to play second half. Gab Breeze also came on for Thomas Holy at some point.
And Kai Nugent came on for Dennis at the same time.
Yes, correctly, yeah. So of the team that started the first half, I think they were the only 2 left. I think Holy and Dennis must be. Yeah. Good to see Dennis getting a good 60 minutes, because one issue we had with him last season, he also had to build his fitness up, didn't he? And actually watching the goals back, he looks in good shape, actually, doesn't he? He looks like he's maybe worked on that fitness, and we know Simmer's made a big deal of that, hasn't he? The fitness levels have got to be really good this season.
I've seen 1 or 2 people suggest that maybe we should move Christian Dennis on, and I said it when we signed him, and I'm saying it now. I think he's going to turn out to be a really key player for us.
Yeah. I put it this way, I really like looking at Edmondson so far. He looks like a really good signing. But I wouldn't be surprised if Dennis scored more goals than him next season, if he gets a good run. He looks like a real snibber and someone who can get goals. I think Edmondson's more of a target man who's going to really provide for someone like Dennis potentially. And then
like I said when he signed, he's the most Ian Stevens-esque signing we've had in a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I think he looks really sharp from what I've seen in pre-season. Well, in terms of what we're talking about from this game, let's get on to the first point. Jamie Devitt scored a hat-trick. If he plays against Workington and has no problems injury-wise, he's getting a deal, surely, isn't he?
You would think so, wouldn't you? He's still here. He didn't feature against Penrith because of a slight niggle, so he more than made up for it last night.
Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people panic and oh, he's probably not going to get a deal. There's no point in risking him if he's got a slight knock. If it's nothing major, we know what he can do. We just want to see him play a few games, don't we?
I think what a lot of people are forgetting as well, next season you can use 5 from 7 on the bench.
Yeah.
There's going to be more chances for Falk. On the flip side, there's going to be more tweaks and injuries.
Yeah.
And could Jamie Devitt play 46 games, 90 minutes?
No.
Probably not. Hilton will be ahead of him, I would say.
Yeah.
But not a bad... Paul Simpson's talked a lot about starters and finishers, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You know how he wants to have strength on the bench. Jamie Devitt won't be a bad option from the bench, will he?
You almost wonder if as well, when you look at, if you go to a game like, let's say, Stockport away, you might look and think, right, I'm going to start Devitt in this game. Because he's someone who can
Hilton on the hour type thing.
Yeah. He can control this game, and then we can release the other plays later on.
Hilton's a young lad. He's going to get the odd knock, you know.
Yeah, it's his first full season, isn't it? As a pro. I mean, you mentioned that sub point. Before we go a bit more about Devitt, do you think that's going to make a big difference as to how Simo's recruiting in the summer? Cause I think it'll probably make a difference to most managers, right? Because surely you're going to look and think to yourself, I can actually get a little bit more quality than I normally would. Because normally you've got to be balanced, haven't you? You think to yourself, I can't have too many good players because you're going to have 2 or 3 of them sat on the bench, naffed off that they're not getting game time. With the 5 subs, I can give them a bit more game time. Do you think that changes the mindset slightly?
Possibly, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how managers adapt to it. Because you can still only use them in 3 goals, you know. And I think you get half time and then 3 goals, don't you? So there's 4 chances.
I feel like you might get more subs at half time than you used to. I mean, that's one thing you're going to see. I think you're going to see.
It'd be interesting to watch over the first few weeks, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because obviously we've had it during the pandemic, but that was different. You were cramming games.
I think regarding half time, that'll be more tactical because you'd be able to make a couple at half time, knowing you've still got 3 later on.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point actually. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Anyway, potentially, it is a good chance for your Ellises and your Bells and your Kilsbys and whatnot. For them, it's a chance for them to look and go, all right, actually, maybe I can actually do something here. I mean, it sounds like, I think we sort of touched on Devitt there. We've covered him off and said he's going to get a deal if he plays against Workington. We reckon we're surprised if he doesn't get a year deal or something like that. Lewis Bell, just a quick one on him. It sounds like Simo's going to try and potentially play him as a wing back, possibly maybe an option there to give us a bit more cover, because obviously we know he played there against Sheffield United in the League Cup and he did okay, but he obviously came through as a winger, and we know players change as they find their feet as a pro. Did he play again? I can't remember. He played against Penrith, didn't he? How do you think he did?
Again, it's hard to say. You know, they all only got 45 minutes, and nobody had a stinker. Put it like that.
Yeah.
You know, and it was. I think from Workington onwards is when we can really start judging players. Yeah. Obviously, we've got behind closed doors against Morton next week as well, apparently. Yeah. So when they're away up in Scotland for a few days. So I think, especially once you get to Bolton, that's when it will be getting a lot more settled. So I wouldn't like to criticise anyone at the moment or pick on them, or you know.
No, that's fair enough. So yeah, in terms of the players that come in and how they did in these games. So Ryan Edmondson, obviously we're quite excited about how he did, and obviously you know, like you said, it's hard to judge in these first few games, but you get a feeling he really is going to be the talisman this season. He's the one that Simo's going to at least build around as the starter. It's like you said, Dennis might end up being one of these players actually for a bit who comes off the bench and later on in games to take chances. how big do you think Edmondson's going to be as a signing?
I think the potential is massive. It's up to him to take the chance.
Yeah.
He obviously likes working with Paul Simpson. He made a lot about that in his interview.
Yeah.
He's settled. He should be settled as well. He's not just on loan. He's not at another club for a bit and then going back. He's here for 2 years, and he knows if he kicks on, he could end up doing like what George Tanner did and moving to the Championship.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't get in the way of that. We're a club that won't. If he comes in and scores, 15 goals this season, makes another 10 and gets rave reviews, we'll happily sell him for $500,000.
Yeah, definitely. You'd be more than happy to do that. So yeah, I feel like he's going to be a big one. Defense-wise, do you think he maybe needs to get another couple more in, possibly? I mean, I feel like a left wing-back we're actually sorting, a left-back, because we've got Armour, Dickinson and Charters who can all play there. Right seems to be the concern, though, because at the moment, obviously, with Senior being out injured, you've actually only got Ellis, who probably prefers to be a centre-back, although I imagine he's going to be trying as a right wing-back for now, or right-back. And it sounds like Lewis Bell's the only one who's going to play there at the moment. So,
Corey Whelan?
Based on what I saw him play there last season, I think I'd rather not. I think I'd rather he was an option at centre-back. It does sound like he wants to get more defenders in, doesn't it?
The squad numbers tells the story. 6 is still there. 6 is a proper centre-back's number, isn't it?
Yeah, I imagine there's definitely going to be a centre-back coming in.
Yeah, I think we're waiting for an experienced one. It'd be interesting to see who it is.
Yeah.
I think we'll start seeing a bit more movement from some clubs in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Could you see any more going out from us?
Not really. A couple of loans, I would say, for the younger ones. We've actually got, at the moment, if we were strictly 4-4-2, I know we're not.
Yeah.
We've actually got, I'm just counting up, 8, 11, 14. We've got 25 players in our squad, including injured players. So, I look at it and I can only see loans going out.
Yeah.
I can't,
Do you not think, the way I'm looking at it is, if you bring in another centre-back, you then got new centre-back, Feeney, Barkley, Mellish, and Whelan, who can all play there. Is Corey Whelan the one that stands out, maybe, you think?
He's possibly the one most at risk of not playing as much.
Yeah.
But again, if we play flat back, four, he'd probably be more comfortable as a right back than he would as a right wing back.
Possibly.
I
have a feeling we're going to play 3 at the back from the start of the season, at the very least. But it's a hard one to judge, isn't it? I think it might be a minor thing to point out, but captain-wise, Morgan Feeney's been captain for games. Callum Guy as well. He hasn't decided yet. Simo, what would you do in this situation in terms of how would you handle it? Obviously, we had this issue.
Guy is captain.
Yeah.
And, you think when you play Football Manager, they don't like it when they take the band off.
Well, we saw with Aaron Hayden not getting the captain's armband, and he left within a month or so. So
I would probably stick with Guy and make Feeney vice captain.
Yeah, I think that's the sensible choice, isn't it?
Let's be honest, they're both sort of leaders on the pitch anyway. So
yeah, you've got a few out there, haven't you? I think someone like Dennis can be a leader as well. I think. And we've seen John Mellish.
I think Hawley will be. I was stood behind Hawley for a bit of the first half at Penrith, and he's vocal. He's not over the top, but
he's a big.
He's organised. He's massive.
Like I still want to see.
I was stood beside my mate who's 6'4" for a few minutes having a catch up, and I've always considered him to be tall. And then at half time, Hawley came and got like his juice or something out of the goal, and my mate who's 6'4" was like, "Christ, he's tall."
He's a big man. I still want to see the photo of him next to Sonny Hilton because I think that'd be hilarious. Yeah. But
there was that one I screenshotted, wasn't it, of walking past Paul Simpson in the deal.
It looks like his
Simo came up about his sort of navel or something.
Yeah.
It was
That's ridiculous. So there you go. I think we've done as much as we can on those two games, considering we didn't go to the Kendal games. It's tough one to say anymore. But yeah, it's good workouts in terms of fitness, basically, and that's the key thing for those ones, isn't it? So there you go. Let's have a little quick chat then before we do the X-Files section, Dan. So yeah, Dan, let's move on then. Let's talk a little about some of the League Two transfers this summer, some of the big ones that have come in so far. Well, obviously we're going to do a full preview section anyway. We're going to go through a few because we've got the excellent D3, D4 football website up. We're going to go through them. First up, we talked about it before we came on air. AFC Wimbledon not brought many in. They've only brought 2 in, but 2 big signings, aren't they? Alex Pearce and Chris Gunter. I know Gunter's dropping down a bit now. He's getting a bit older, but Welsh international and a very experienced centre back in Pearce. You imagine they're potentially going to be a team that does quite well this season. I know they've been on a terrible run, but they're 2 big ones, aren't they?
Yeah. They're using their location, Pearce from Millwall, Gunter from Charlton. You can't blame them. They've got the new stadium now settled in. It'll be an appealing signing for those sort of players. Yeah,
I'm not going to talk about anyone from Barrow because we talked through a few of those already, to be honest. And there's nothing really that makes me go, wow, they're big signings for them. Quite a lot of movement at Bradford, isn't there? They've had a few players going out. I mean, Callum Cook has just signed for Hartlepool, fair enough, actually. He's just left them. Powdy O'Connor as well. And Charles Vernham, both good players.
Elliot Watt
going to Salford. That's a very unusual sideways move, that, isn't it? We've said this before. We think he'd do better at League One level, don't we? Because it's maybe he wouldn't get roughed up as much. But
there's 2 stand out on the incomings there. Richie Smallwood from Hull. Yeah. That's a big signing. Yeah, that's a big signing because he played nearly every game for Hull last season in the Championship. Yeah. And Harry Chapman, who was whispered about for us.
Yeah, interesting that he's gone there. So that's a movement for them. I mean, going down through some of the others. I mean, Colchester United signed Alex Newby, someone that we said we wouldn't mind seeing.
An interesting one. Yeah,
it's quite a move, that, isn't it? To get someone who's been based in the Northwest most of his career. To make the move all the way down to Essex, he must be getting a decent package there, you'd think, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So that's quite a move for him. I mean,
and one that stands out now, we're moving on to Crawley. Dom Telford.
I've just got this horrible feeling it's going to come crashing down at Crawley in the nicest way possible. It doesn't.
There was a couple of folk on the forum made the comment that prior to last season, he hadn't actually done that much.
No, it's a risky one, isn't it?
He had a Mellish-esque run, didn't he?
Yeah. And then he had a run where he didn't score many,
Yeah, and you can't blame him. I mean, Crawley have got their new crypto owners. They'll be throwing a bit of money about. He's been offered for a year, probably on $2,500 a week. Of course he's going to sign.
Yeah. Well, the rumour I've heard is it's more than $2,500 a week.
Well,
if that crypto money goes bust, then they will be in trouble. Dion Conroy as well, they signed from Swindon. That's another fairly big signing. So it's a good move for that. Someone obviously we'll be mentioning shortly in the, or 2 players actually we'll mention shortly, signing for Crewe in the X-Files section. More on that soon. There's no massive ones for them, I don't think it's fair to say. Nothing that really excites you. George Miller signing for Doncaster is an interesting one.
And Lee Harrison Biggins from Fleetwood. And Lee Molyneux as well. That's 3 decent signings.
3 decent. The only 3 signings they made so far, but 3 decent ones all the same. That interesting ones for them. Nothing really stands out for me at Gillingham. Looking through theirs.
I'm just looking. Gillingham, Grimsby, nothing really stands out.
No, I don't. Oh, it's Khan. It's one of those ones you think is going to be quite
good.
He just seems to move about a lot though, doesn't he?
Harrogate leading on Huddersfield massively, freeing on loan.
They've signed a lot, haven't they? Actually, Joe Mattick, pretty decent signing for them, maybe you'd say.
I'm just scrolling down as we're talking. Hartlepool, obviously, they've got Figgy in as manager. You can tell he's Scottish.
They've only got one
Scottish players.
They've only got one player who's not from a Scottish club, Kyle Leverin. Yeah. And guess where he's from originally? He must be Scottish. Got to be Scottish, hasn't he? A name like that. So they've like you said, they've leaned heavily on Scotland.
Casey could be a good signing.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you look at it and you think to yourself, it's a risk doing that, isn't it? We've seen before clubs where managers come in and sign a lot of players in one league and it never quite works out. George Moncoeur going to Orient. That feels like a big signing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Did not expect that one, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. Mansfield are very quiet, aren't they?
They are, which made you suspicious. I mean, they've kept, to be fair, I think they've kept, you look, they've only released 3 players.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much sticking with the squad. I think they'll probably have a few loan signings coming, and that's where their difference will come.
Our old friend, Fernandez Zanzala at Newport.
Along with Omar Bogle as well, he's gone there too.
He was one that stands out at Northampton, Danny Hilton.
Yes. Frustrating. Danny Hilton and Ben Fox are the two for me. They made some really good stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they kicked on again this season, really. So, interesting. Lee Burge signed for them. He was someone I heard was linked with us that we were discussing. So,
Rochdale have signed very Rochdale signings.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Very sort of solid.
Yeah.
Decent enough players. I mean,
6-7 out of 10ers.
Yeah, Ebanks Lendl from Shrewsbury. Yeah, not too sure about it.
We've already touched on Elliot Watts at Salford, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, other than that, they've signed Callum Hendry from St Johnston and
Stevenage have been busy.
Yes, well, obviously, Mr. Evans being in there, he's always going to be busy. He's not going to mess around, is he, usually? So, I mean, Dan Sweeney from Forest,
Rose, Sweeney,
so they could be one to be reckoned with this season, potentially.
Stockport just taking the piss.
Oh, I mean, just come on. Kyle Wootton from Notts County has scored loads for them this season. And they signed a couple from Torquay and York. I'm guessing they're going to know how good they are. Fraser Horsfall, Callum Camps, and a keeper on loan from Liverpool as well. Yeah, that's like I said. I mean, they clearly know what they're doing, don't they?
Sutton have signed former trialist Kwame Thomas, so that's enough about them.
I have a feeling Sutton might struggle a bit this season.
Good struggle, yeah.
Obviously, they've lost Bennett going back to Barrow. Ajibowie he was a very good player for them, gone to Peterborough. I just have this feeling they might find it a bit tough. It doesn't actually mention that. They've also lost another former player of ours who will be mentioned in the X-Files section as well, a goalkeeper. So, yeah, interesting one, that one. Swindon. Yeah.
Reece Devine from Man United sort of sticks out.
He didn't really shine for me when we played against Walsall, to be honest. I wasn't that impressed with him. I look at their sides and I'm like, I don't really know enough about a lot of them. So it's a tough one to judge. Tranmere been busy-ish as well. They've got a few in. John Nolan from Bristol Road is a decent player. Paul Lewis returning from Northampton. They're not messed up with that one.
Walsall have been mega busy. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 in.
Yeah, not messing about there. Obviously, there's someone there that used to play for us in their squad as well.
Yeah. There's 2.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Fair point. But interesting work across the division. Other than Stockport, I think, and maybe Northampton, there's none that make you go, wow, they made some big signings. Really, you're just a bit,
obviously, we'll when we do the season preview, we'll sort of pick a key player for each of these teams, and it could be a signing, it could be someone already there. You know, but
could well be. Yes. Yeah. Right, let's get on to the X-Files section then. Dan, plenty to fit in this week.
Yeah, a few bits and pieces this week. From last season's squad, Rod McDonald has joined Crewe, where he'll be back with Kelvin Mellor. On to Wrexham. Mark Howard's signed for Wrexham on a 1-year deal, so he'll get a good wage there. Speaking of Wrexham, Sean Brisley's left them. Dean Bouzanis has gone from Sutton to Reading. Lucas Jensen, hallelujah, season-long loan at Accrington Stanley. Kwame Thomas, the former trialist, has signed for Sutton. Must be the Richie Bennett replacement. Charlie Birch has went to Workington Reds. Lewis Gray, the goalie, has went to Nantwich Town. And then a couple of bigger ones. James Chester has joined Derby. That's a good signing for them. And Callum O'Hare has been the subject of 2 bids from Burnley. But Coventry are playing hardball at the moment. And one we haven't mentioned, we should probably have done this in the news. Liam McCadden has gone to Stoke. There may be a small sell-on. I don't think it'll be much, but there you go. And one piece of managerial news, thanks to Kyle for sending me this one. Former goalkeeper Anthony Williams is now in as the manager at Welsh side Aberystwyth Town. So there you go. That's this week's Blues. I think in a couple of weeks' time it'll be a bit more. Moves starting to happen, etc.
Okay, Dan, thanks for covering all those bits. Loads to fit in on the Excel sections, and I suspect it'll be another really busy one when I get back from my honeymoon in a couple of weeks' time for the next episode. I suspect there'll be players going all over the shop.
I'll make the notes while you're sunning yourself in the Italian sun.
Oh, that certainly will be with my Aperol Spritz sat by the pool. I'll be enjoying that stuff. it's one of those ones that I had it when I was drunk the other night, and I was like, yeah, let's get one. And you're like, God, it's so bitter. You don't realise how bitter it is until you actually start having it, but there you go. So yeah, there you go. So as we were saying before, Next episode is going to be before the Morecambe game is the aim for that one. Hopefully we'll get it might just be a mini one wrapping up how things have gone in the recent pre-season games and any other signings that have come in at that point. We'll then be doing the season preview. We're probably going to split that into 2 episodes. And we're hoping to have a very special guest on one of those episodes. We're just trying to get a few things sorted, but I think you'll all be very impressed if we do manage to get it done.
I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll pop a poll out on the Twitter. Do you want it in 2 parts, or do you just want it as a mega one that you can dip in and out of type thing?
It's whether obviously the guest that we're going to have on to do an interview with, we might have to do that as a separate episode. But if we do, basically we'll work out some way of doing it. But it should be good stuff. And then obviously we'll have the episode for the opening game as well against Crawley. God, it's coming thick and fast, isn't it? There's only one month to go. In fact, it'll be 3 weeks on Saturday, isn't it, till the first game of the season? Yeah. God, this pre-season's gone already. So much already, hasn't it? There you go. Yeah. Dan, thanks very much for joining me for this week's episode. Thanks everyone for listening. We will be back in a couple of weeks with a bit more of the news from the pre-season. But until then, have a good summer and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.